Oh, crap. We're live? And we're getting FedEx shipments, and I'm reading email. Welcome to the show. It's a humdinger so far. Hey, welcome to Printrbot Live. This is Brook Drum with Printrbot.com. I am not only your host for today's show, but I run the company, which you're in for a treat. Well, let me tell you. So I want to say right off the bat what we're going to talk about in this show, so you can just, if you're not interested, you can just leave already. But I always like that, so I can either, if I'm watching this later, you could fast forward, like skip the parts I'm talking about, and you know I'm going to talk about something cool. So the first thing I want to give you an update on is Adopt-A-Bot, and then we're going to talk about the new models of Simple Pro. It's not really a pitch on why you need to buy one. It's not like that. We have 3 models now, and I'll explain why. And then we're going to talk about the printer belt briefly. And that was the email I got from William Steele, or Bill. So that will remind me to read that email. So, Adopt-A-Bot. So I was very, very, very happy that last week, was that only last week? That was 1 week ago? Dave's here with us. I don't know, maybe it was 2. Okay, when we launched the Adopt-A-Bot a couple weeks ago, it was, I believe, within 24 hours. It was actually less. 5 hours, we sold out of the 25 that Dave put up. And then I secretly, did I tell you this? I logged on and added 5 more. Okay. And then it went to 30. And yeah, we had a few people order multiples. I'm over it. We didn't ship them multiples. But on Twitter and Google+, I hang out in those 2 places. And I'm sorry for the Facebook folks that are on Facebook all the time. I don't like Facebook, and I'm sorry, but I'm not there a lot. When I get text messages about, hey, a bunch of people want to talk to you on Facebook, I try to go in there and read and stuff, but it confuses me. But at any rate, I got some requests from people, oh, I missed it, I want to do it. And I've seen those people here in the community for a while, and so I did make a couple of exceptions, but then I just ran out of printers. So we've got, I wish I could say all of them shipped. I failed today. I was going to ship 3 pluses, I believe. Maybe it's 2 or 3 or 4. I didn't get it done, so I'm sorry. But we'll ship those out. I would say tomorrow, but every time I make a promise, I'm too optimistic, I'm finding. But at any rate, we will get them shipped out, but 30 people, roughly, are going to be receiving this. Some already have. So that took out like gangbusters. But here's what I've learned. I can't send a pile of junk. So I took, and I had a lot of help from Repcord, a community member that you probably have seen him on Twitter. He came and helped a couple of times, and we got some pro models out, pro beta models. And I don't want to send junk, so I was trying to minimize the amount of money you guys would have to spend. So it took a little longer than I thought. And with the pluses, they're in the most disrepair, meaning like they've been stripped apart. So that might actually look like a bag of parts. But the people that requested specifically the pluses, they wanted a challenge, or they wanted that model, so they should be fine. But at any rate, we're almost done. So I learned that it takes a lot of time to do this. And so I'm really glad that last week we invited people to join the cause. We invited manufacturers to donate parts, not just to me, but to schools. Like get printers that are sitting around to schools, fix them and give them to schools. Use your community to do that. I called, and I said called out. I just talked about it. Let me suggest that if you have multiple printers that you're not using, that you should do the same. Find a local school and donate that to a teacher or a student. But a lot of discussion has come up about this. We had our forum online, and frankly, I like to wait. I always get queasy after these shows. I don't know if you've sensed this in me, Dave, but like I get a little bit exhausted after this podcast because it's like, oh, crap, people were watching me and listening to me. You feel kind of stupid talking to this camera, this little bitty camera. So I feel weird after the show, and I like to just like go be alone a little bit. So it was a couple days before I even checked the list. And so I got with Dave, and I was like, Dave, let me see the list. We got the list. I looked at it. There were 50 people on the list. And I was like, this is fantastic. And so I start reading through those, and these people are fantastic, like better than I could have ever hoped. And then we talked about it a couple days later, and the list was up to 89, 80, and I was blown away. I haven't even read all of it yet, and I apologize for that, but I'm kind of letting it simmer. And what is it at now? Maybe we're going to check right now. But here's the good news. People are interested. I'm still totally gung-ho for this. But here's the realization. Let's be real, people. We got to get freaking organized. So the first thing I'm going to do, it's going to go like this. The first thing I'm going to do, we've already set up a, what is that called? MailChimp? MailChimp list, because I don't want to send it from email, have everybody emailing me. Not that I mind, but I want to be organized. So we've got a MailChimp list, which is an email thing that, there we go. Oh, this is crazy. He just told me there's 122 responses for Adopt-a-Bot now, and I'm just finding that out. This is fantastic. So it's just growing. It's happening. This is a thing that people want. And the only reason I'm happy is not for me. I'm happy because schools may have a hope here, people, if you keep showing up and volunteering. I've had people write and say, I want to give you my Ultimaker. I want to give you my MakerBot. And I said, I don't want your Maker. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, any printer is fine. Because if we have these community members, believe me, I'm not going to do this. It's the community project. So we will find community members that are either great at fixing any printer, which is probably who we're going to get. Or maybe they have a specialty where they're like really good at, those second-gen MakerBots or something. They know the mods to make. It's not about Printrbot hardware. I don't care what hardware is on it. I even had one guy say that he was involved with the Frankenbot, if you remember that. I've always wanted to help teachers in schools, and so I've done several things, and they didn't really pan out. Like early on, I did a Kickstarter right after my other Kickstarter, thinking everything I touch turns to gold. This must be easy. Another Kickstarter for me. And I put this. You might be able to find it. I forget how much it was, but I was like, hey, 2 Printrbots for the price of 1. It was a little bit more. But you buy one and get one, and then the other one goes to a school. So you're going to donate it to a school. Well, people didn't do it. I did this Frankenbot program where I gave a bunch of hardware away to a couple people that were designing a printer that was easy to laser cut because they had a laser cutter. And there were some printed parts too. And so that went on for a while. But let me tell you, and that guy contacted me and said, hey, I was involved in that program, and I can build that printer for the bomb on a one-off with like AliExpress and all this really clever sourcing that he did. He said he was right around $125 cost. Now, from a printer manufacturer, let me tell you, that's cheap. But when I figure my cost, I have to figure hours of printing, cost of the plastic, cost of the electricity to run the laser cutter, cost of the time of the guy to watch the laser cutter. Oh, we have, this many failures, so we got to have that much more, like 10% more, blah, blah, blah. It gets confusing. But the beauty with a community is some people do want to print. They want to. Some people have laser cutters, and they want to donate time, so you don't have to figure that into the price. So he had this great bomb, and it came up that he's buying these E3D knockoff clones from China for $5. My Ubis hot end is $59, I think. You get what you pay for, people, let me just tell you. I've never used those E3D Chinese knockoffs. He said he was having good results. I don't want to use those when I build printers at all. But I got to thinking, I don't want to assume that all my choices are the right choices, so I'm willing to give the reins away to the community and help the community come up with a plan. But I do think this. I just wrestled, how many different printers? I've designed probably close to 35, 40 printers or CNC machines in the last 6, 7 years. And let me tell you, that's too many. And that means that, 35 of them are crap. Not really, but you know, there was problems along the way with all of them, and I had to iterate. But we don't need that kind of chaos. We have got to focus on one model, and I have chosen the smalls because I designed it and I know it very well. Now, it's agnostic on whether or not you put a UBIS hot end on it, or an E3D, or an E3D clone, or something else. We can modify this, but I think we need to align around 1 or 2 printers. So that's what we're going to, we got to start somewhere. That's where we're starting. And I think that's going to be great because, A, I have a lot of parts that I can just donate. And they fit that printer, all right? Here's another cool thing about it. Lots of printed parts. And I think I'm going to make even more printed parts so I don't have to do water jetting, because I can't give away water jet cut parts. The water jet went down, if you didn't know that. And it's been a pain in my butt, okay? So we're going to tell you about that in a minute. But anyway, so I don't want manufacturing to be a problem. I want printing to be, you know, a blessing for this program. So I am open to doing a laser cut / printed thing, but I think the best case is like hand tools and a 3D printer. That would be really cool. I also don't want it to be ugly. The Printrbot is beautiful. It's a beautiful one. The Simple has a charm. It's very small. I do think that small gives an edge to the Printrbot because that's larger. That's like an 8x8. He's building it with a heated bed. I know big is cool, but believe me, when you're starting, I don't think you need. Do you think you need a heated bed when you're starting? Dave's saying no. I don't either. To be honest, I still use mine at home without a heated bed because I usually print small things. And this is a small printer. So I think it's a good place to start. That's what we're going to do. But the message is we got to get organized, and here's how it's going to go. First, I choose leaders. So when I send out the first newsletter, which will be very soon, it's all set for me to just get in there. We do have to add those new addresses that came in. Did you already make a mailing list? Okay. So we've got to add the new people in. I'm going to be talking specifically to leaders. And when reading through the comments, there's some fantastic people. I'm going to reach out to those individually if I see some things that really rise to the top. But there are leaders in several categories. So I think you're going to find yourself in one of. Let me slice this up, okay? For one, there's people saying, I want a printer, I'm a teacher, I'm a school, I want a printer. That's great. And yeah, if I can help, great. Okay, that's awesome, and we need that. But that's kind of the last step. We first got to figure out how we're going to organize this and make the printers. The deadline's end of August for me, so I'm going to help by I don't want to say Kickstarter, by jump-starting this, and I'll tell you how. But I need to find those leaders and to have them help me share the burden of organization. Because with 122 people and growing, by the way, you can sign up. How do I give them a link to that?
Printrbot.com/adoptabot, one word. I'll put it on the
That's beautiful. He's going to put a link in the notes, but it's Printrbot.com/adoptabot, adopt a bot, all one word. So go there to find more information, and well, there's not a lot of information there right now. I need to write stuff. But it's a sign-up list, so you can be sure. Can you put the MailChimp sign-up on that page? It's already on the page. Dave's a genius. Okay. So go there to subscribe, and I will keep you posted. But believe me, it's not going to be something I drag my feet any longer. It's been a nutty week for me. But this is the Printrbot and this are the two things I'm really excited about in life right now. So those are the two things that are going to get my time. I will get organized because I know that I can't be a bottleneck for this community stepping out and saying, I want to help kids in schools. So I'll make sure to make it happen. Putting leaders in place to share the burden and start to get people organized. I have a few people that have written and said, I'm an electronics guy. I can fix electronics. Awesome. I've already shipped some boards to people to see how we do. There's some people that are like, I'm willing to do anything. I'll solder. I can solder. Have people saying, I'll build. Some people saying, I'll print. And some that have said, you know, I'll help lead or I'll fill in wherever needed. In fact, this Saturday, u3dit.com, little plug there. Chris, he's a great guy. If you need something printed, give him a call. I don't print things. He prints things. And he has other services too. But anyway, he's close. He's in Berkeley. And he's helped with the Printrbots at Berkeley. Great guy, good team. I've done an event in San Francisco with him at the motorcycle place down there. Really cool guy. So anyway, he is bringing a team up this Saturday. So if you get your butt here on Saturday at 9 a.m., believe it or not, I'm opening my doors and we're going to be kitting stuff out here, believe it or not. So I have these donation parts, and what they can do is they can help me refurb or check boards, reload firmware, load kits with bars and bearings and nuts and bolts and check hot ends and refurb stuff. So they're going to help get me to that 50, and we're going to have everything we need except printing. So if you want to get started right now, start printing Smalls parts. And we can put a link on that Adopt-A-Bot page. This is the Smalls. What I will do is I will not modify the existing parts that need to be printed. Man, I know I'm going to modify crap. What am I going to do? See, here I am making a decision on the fly. It's a bad decision. Scratch that. Okay, it's going to be a derivative of the Smalls, and soon I will post the models that you need to print. But let's not start printing yet, okay? Because I really need to take a better look at that before I waste your filament. All right, so anyway, enough of that. There's a lot of stuff we need to do. If you're on the sign-up list, you're good to go. Get on that mailing list, and I'll get my head in order. Enough about that. I don't want to bore everybody. Now we're going to move on to these guys. This will be quick. So I love this. We got to show you our setup someday. It is, bring that over here, Dave. Can you bring that, or is it's got audio? You can't bring that over? All right. Maybe next week we'll show them our setup. We have this little tiny camera, and it's just Dave with an iPad, and then he's monitoring stuff on his Mac too. But he's zooming. The camera's stationary, and he's zooming around, and he can widen the shot and stuff. So it's really, really simple. You can buy this stuff off the shelf. But these are the three models of the Simple Pro that we have. Now, Tom's Hardware, you guys probably, a lot of you guys are probably familiar with Tom. He's a great guy, very thorough. He is a very smart guy. In fact, he's above the IQ of most of my customers, and I don't mean that bad. I just mean he's a really smart guy. Very articulate, German fellow, and he reviewed this. And when I watched that, I thought, ouch, that was kind of harsh. But then he got to the part with his sister. He gave this printer to his sister and said, okay, it's supposed to be for newbies. Let's see how Brook did. And then it was a little bit better. But early on, I used to sell kits, and so I sent him a kit. So because there's some beautiful things inside these printers that you don't get to see. But I think from all angles, this thing is beautiful. Now with our nickel-plated flex board, it's magnetized. It really looks cool. Okay, but anyway, when you buy this at $9.99, and it is on sale right now for $8.99. I did a sale on all these. So $8.99, and you get the Simple Pro. It has a touchscreen. It has Wi-Fi. It's a choice. You don't have to use Wi-Fi. You don't have to use my cloud. And that was one thing Tom took issue with. He was like, the cloud's not there. Well, we'll get there. But I'll tell you about a couple features that are back. For a short time, we took infill off, we took brim off, and we took, what was the other one? Support off. Now they're back, so relax, everyone. Anyway, so this has a heated bed. It comes with a heated bed. All of the $8.99 on sale models for the Pro, this comes with a heated bed. And this ain't just a weenie heated bed. This thing performs very well, and what I mean is it gets hot. I remember trying to get some of our early Plus models up to 100 or 110. Some people go to 110. And it was a little bit sketchy because some of those early PCB designs weren't great. I used the original Prusa one, like Mark I or whatever. But this one's really good. And we're even improving it a little bit more. But so you can use any material. It does have this flex plate that you can put tape on, and you can put PEI, you can put Kapton. I don't know why you'd put blue tape on here, but some might. This is all in. This is everything. You can use the cloud if you want. You can use the USB right here, straight to Cure, whatever. It doesn't matter OS. So that's all good. That's for sale, has been for a while. You don't need to really know much about that. But because of that review, and some people have commented in the past, I don't want the cloud. I hate the cloud. You're stupid for doing the cloud. Okay, you don't have, that's fine. I get it. You know, security concerns. There's schools that have terrible Wi-Fi. There's some shops that have Wi-Fi. I even had a guy from, I don't know if he works at NASA, but he was literally a rocket scientist guy. He does hobby rockets. He works for or he said he works for NASA. Very, very smart guy, but he says, I'm out in the field, like miles away from internet. It would be a horrible connection. Don't make me use the cloud or the printer's useless. Well, we've got a solution. See that? Can they see this? It's just, I like this because it's just like a blank face. There's no touch screen. You can pretend, but there's nothing there. Behind there is not a touch screen, and we remove a ribbon cable. And so we put this little, little jumper on the power board at the back that says, hey, give power to the G2 board because they're going to use it with this plug only. And so you can just use this via USB. Now, I wanted this to be a different price point, and just removing whatever it cost me, $50 or I forget how much it does, the touch screen and the ribbon cable, it doesn't remove a lot of money. So I needed it at a different price point. And so for the simpletons like me that just use cold beds and blue tape, this model might be a good fit. There's no cloud, see? And this one costs, I don't even remember.
That one's $749
$749?
on sale.
On sale for $749. Normally, $849. So we hit some very specific percentages with our margin, so that's why it's weird numbers. So you can get this. If you don't want the cloud, you can buy this. And yes, you could upgrade with the heat bed if you wanted, the flex plate. But then you're, almost, maybe it's more, I don't know. You might be better off just getting the other one. But you do the math, you do what you want. But this is available. So you don't have to have the cloud. This is more like the old Simple. You can switch out the tips, use any size tip, because Tom also said, I don't know why he put a 0.3 tip on there. I put a 0.3 tip on there because, see you later, because you can print higher resolution stuff with a smaller tip. You can get more detail. That's why I did it. But, so that's the second one, and we call this the base model. Am I right? Yes. we argued about what do we call this? There's too many simples already. What are you doing, Brook? Anyway, so this is the Simple Pro base model. And the short of it is there's no cloud or heat bed, $749 on sale. All right, and this is the interesting one that I'm really anxious to see if anybody cares. Maybe nobody does. Maybe nobody cares, Dave. But this is for people that write and say, hey, how do I upgrade my 2011, original Printrbot I got in Kickstarter? I want to upgrade to a Plus. You know how complicated it is? I don't mean to be condescending, although it comes naturally sometimes. Upgrading these bots is complicated because of all the nuts and parts and things don't fit. And I made different choices on motors, and sometimes they're different sizes and everything. It gets complicated. But let me tell you, with a little work on your part, or a lot of work on your part, I could strip these motors and plug them into what I'm calling the rolling chassis. It's a rolling chassis because I'm a car guy, and where you start is you get 4 tires on a chassis and it rolls across the shop. So this is just rolling. All the mechanics are intact. The one awkward point, we kind of put a little cheater in here, a little wrench. The one awkward point is this doesn't have a place to rest, but it's really going to be parts wrapped up in a box. Whoops, sorry. But you even have the 4-star Acme rod T8 or whatever it's called. The right coupler that goes to regular NEMA 17s. So you could take this off. You can leave it off if you want, if you got some other extruder that you want to use. So really this is a blank canvas, white canvas, but it's all the good hardware. That's one thing Tom was very clear in his review. He said, listen, this is the best printer that Printrbot has ever made. I agree with him. We did a lot of things right on this, but if the cloud was wrong for you, you may not want that. If you want to make different choices on building this up than I did, then you could do that with this. And if you had an old, this is the most important one, I think. If you have an older printer that you just want to update, you want to take, you know, you know what? I gave away all my wooden kits. I used to grab the small maker's kit. I've sent them to people. But if you have a smaller model or a different model, you know, like this, and you wanted to upgrade, you could actually take the brains out, take the printer board, take the motors, essentially, and wires, and power supply, extruder, at least the hot end, and you could mount it on here. You could hack in a sensor, or you could do old school in-stop or something. But the point I'm trying to make is this is available. Now, when I did the pricing on this, it kind of sounded expensive to me, but not for what you get. This is, I don't know where you're going to get machining like this in any other printer at this price. So this is really nice stuff. This is our best. And what does this cost? $3.99? On sale for $3.99. And I believe the regular price, Dave, is at some point it'll go up to more than that.
It is
Enough said. It doesn't matter.
$449.
$449. Okay. All right. So that's the new models, and that's why. Mainly because some people want the cloud, some people don't. Some people want to upgrade. Some already got what they like. All right. So there you go. Now the update on the printer belt. Well, this is why I've had a hard week. Hard 2 weeks. My water jet broke, and it just said overload, overload. And so, you know, when your lifeblood of your company is running on these machines that you own, it starts to get hard. So Flo said, oh yeah, we'll send somebody out there in 2 weeks, which was rough to hear. And so I decided I'll get the kit and I'll do it myself. Well, me and Brian did that. We got the rebuild kit and we rebuilt it, and we were so excited when we fired it up, and it cut. And then the same error message came up again, and it shut down. Yeah. So that bummed me out quite a bit. And I was like, wow. So when Mark, who's my junior engineer, he does the cutting for me, he was like, yeah, this is still shutting down the same way. And I'm like, we got to figure this out. So when I have a very hot shop, and it's like right now it's probably over 100 degrees in there. I mean, literally 100 degrees. We have air-conditioned offices scattered about, but the guys out in the shop in the water jet's in 100 degrees. So I was like, you know what, maybe it's just the heat. And so I blew out, there's an amazing amount of dust inside that computer cabinet. Blew out the computer cabinet, cleaned everything off. I put fans on both of them, and he says, well, it ran for a little while, and then it shut down again. So I got the swamp cooler out, which is massive. It's like this. It's huge, like $3,500 swamp cooler. It's big. And I filled it with water, and I turned that sucker on and blew it into the back of the machine to see if I can get it even colder. And it runs until it got another error message. Now that error message had to do with sand. You know, it doesn't want to run without sand when you say put sand in it to cut metal. You can't cut metal with water, you need sand to garnet. So oddly, out of the blue, a tech showed up today from Flo. He was in the area, and they said, hey, you need somebody, right? Let's send him over. So boom, he just showed up. And he found that the sand sensors were wired wrong. And then he said, nope, they're wired right. And then he said the problem is actually your optical sensors, which I don't even really know what he means. But he showed me the parts, and so now I got to order more parts for my water jet. So the bad news is this. Giving it to you straight, folks. I feel bad that I haven't been able to get these printer belts out. So here's what I'm going to do. It might sound a little drastic, but don't panic. I am going to, have we contacted these people yet? Okay. Dave has contacted all of the printer belt people. We're giving your money back. Sounds dramatic. The reason why is it's your money. And I'm standing here holding on to it saying, yeah, but just a little bit longer. Yeah, just a little bit longer. It's not cool. So I'm giving the money back. I will reserve the place in line for them. I'll go one better. I'm going to send them one of these for a trial. I'll give them a month. Just for free. Those guys that paid, they're going to get one of the first ones of these in the same order for free. And they can use them for a month, and then they can tell me, yeah, not so good, or yes, good. And then we'll talk about price. I'll give them a deal. So that's how that's going to go. I am sorry it's taken this long. When you're the CEO, let me tell you, everything is your fault, and it's true. Everything is my fault. So I am to blame for this delay. So if you want to blame somebody, blame me. But I'm still going to start cutting them tomorrow, assuming that this water jet keeps cutting. So we're kind of limping along until we get our new sensors. But he told me that as long as I don't move the Z, that it should work. It's like a hack. But anyway, so we're going forward. Bill has been in contact from Polar 3D. He's very excited. He was at Oshkosh all week, and check this out. I had to reread this email to see that it was real. He says, I did some great testing last week up at Oshkosh. He's a pilot guy. Or maybe just an enthusiast. I think he's a pilot. I did some great testing last week up at Oshkosh where I printed over 1,500 small airplane gliders for kids. The printer worked fantastic. He goes on to tell me about 2 errors. But anyway, 1,500? 1,500. That is nuts. All right, so this thing does work. The 2 errors that he found, by the way, is in this orientation. I wanted to show you what the errors were, just to be honest. I put an end stop right here, so when it goes down to home and print on the bottom, it's like slam, 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 slam. So guess what? I switched. So now we've got a bar that moves up and down like this. And since it's printing in the middle, it won't be hitting the end stop every 2 seconds at every layer. So that's going to be fixed. That won't be a problem. The other thing was, well, I guess I don't need to turn it all the way around. But now I have not seen this happen, but I haven't printed 1,500 little gliders for kids either. And he has. So he says, hey, this belt could walk a little bit one direction or another. So you were relying upon this 2-side tensioning system. Well, that's gone. So maybe that takes care of it. But he said a better idea might be to crown which means when you measure the cylinder at the outsides, it'll be smaller and it'll be slightly bigger in the middle because it'll want to come up to the crown and it should hold itself on the crown. So that adds some cost and complexity to me, but I'll talk with my machinist and we'll see what the best way forward is on that. So I want to make sure I make the best printer belt I can. So by giving the money back to the guys that were my favorite customers ever, they just jump knowing that I've barely used this thing. They were excited. They wanted to be the first. Well, they'll still be the first. They'll just have the money in their pocket when they get to be the first, and then they can decide on whether or not they want to buy it. And you can listen to them maybe before you buy. I'm not trying to sell stuff quick. I'm just trying to get things to market quickly, share the honest stuff about the printer to you. But I think in the meantime, some good things have happened. We've improved the design in a lot of little small ways, like really small ways. And Bill got to go to Oshkosh. That was good. But also the software is more tested now. So I think good things are coming. It's just like, typical Brook. They used to call me shoot, ready, aim. And that's me. That's what you're going to get with Printrbot when you're on the bleeding edge with a new product. So that's the deal. So anyway, I still feel good about it because this thing is still awesome. Still prints things 6 foot tall. That! Still prints things very, very long. I think it's hilarious. Anyway, so it still does things no other printer can do, and we'll get this thing out. Believe me, I'm not sitting on my hands. I'm just trying to shuffle all of these crazy things in my life. So great to be with you this week. Any questions at all come in? It's 5:04, which means I've been yammering on for half an hour, and I'm getting tired of it. So I do want to say my apologies. Last week, I used a word I should not have used. It wasn't a curse word. It was a disrespectful word. My apologies. And I think I said but twice on this one, which probably isn't great either. We don't edit this. Did we go back and edit that other one, though? I kind of hate to make you do that, but I think I would like to do that. Just, I don't want to offend anybody, so please accept my apology for saying stuff I shouldn't have said. Anyway, now you're all wondering what it is. I said the word retarded in a bad connotation. I was just using it flippantly, which is not okay. Here's a question. Brook is way nicer than Elon. Have you met him? That dude's had my money forever. That's hilarious. I have heard that he is a little bit quirky. I haven't met him. But I don't know. He seems like a nice guy. Any thoughts on an upgraded G2 with integrated extruder board? Any thoughts on an upgraded G2 with integrated? Heck yeah, VW. What's up? Huh? Guess who got me this shirt, huh? Dave. You know what I'm saying? That was Dave. I wore this today. Not for him, actually. I wore it because I love this shirt. It's my only VW shirt, but I love Volkswagens. I have a 65 Ghia. That's right. That means I'm a real air-cooled VW guy, not a... Oh, Golf? I've never had a Golf. We had a Diesel Rabbit. We had a string of Volkswagen Beetles. My favorite, one of my favorites, the Ghia is my favorite. It's out in the shop. Kind of looks like a piece of junk. I cut the top off. I know I'm one of those guys. But I had a Type 4 Squareback in high school. Gosh, I love that car. There's a guy in my neighborhood that has one. I love it. Okay. The extruder board has one problem. Oh, the multi-color. By the way, a guy just, Jeremy, just popped his head in and said, because we are trying to get past. Here's where we are with our dual extrusion. This is extra. I didn't say I was going to talk about this. We've got both motors running. Duh, we plugged them in wrong. Actually, we plugged the extruder board in wrong. But now that's working. They're both extruding, but we're having issues on all of the settings. So like one of them isn't getting out of the way when it's doing its retraction. It could be a mechanical thing, but I haven't had time yet. But the good news is all the hardware is working. We have shipped those kits. If you were wondering if you'd ever get your little kit, it's really nothing more than an extruder board and a ribbon cable and a header and a couple of V1 alu extruders that are easy to mount. And I sent a plus dual little mounting thing that you can hack onto your bot. But it's not everything you need. You'll need Teflon too. But go to printerbot.com/dual and you will see several things there from our friend in Florida that's trying to get this this thing rolling. And he has asked the same question. What's the deal? Can't we do G2 with extruder board? Well, the problem is the G2 doesn't have the header pins that the printer board has. Printer board was designed by Lane Walker to be expandable and to have an LCD and an extruder board, yada, yada. But the G2 was not. It was made to like make cheaply here. So I talked to the Tiny G guys, and they are coming out with another board that actually has an M7 processor that on it. It will have 5 extruders, and it runs the same code. So I'm getting some test boards in, and we're going to see if we can make that go with this 2-into-1 dual extruder. So I don't think you'll be able to get the extruder board on it. How are you going to get the pin outs? Maybe. I think I shipped out a couple G2 boards. Let's see. What does it say? G2 board, should the motors make a spin down noise? Can you comment on the G2 board? Yeah, so the big difference with the G2 and the printer board is we don't normally enable acceleration in the printer board. The acceleration that you can use in the printer board is very restrictive, and it's kind of, you have to set it manually. So G2 uses, I forget what processor, but it's a 32-bit ARM processor. It does all kinds of fancy math to just figure out I'm drawing a bell curve. It's speeding up and it's slowing down around corners. And so it does that for everything automatically. And it actually dynamically adjusts the extrusion rate based on that. It's really weird when you calibrate one of those. Like I was, when we were setting up the G2 board, I was like, well, don't you need steps per millimeter? He's like, no. There's a totally different way for them because they do like math and stuff. Anyway, but it's fancy pants because it has this acceleration, and it always will like. But if you go really fast, it'll do it really fast. So it's much more. In some ways, it's much more sophisticated than the printer board. The printer board's an 8-bit board, which is like old school Nintendo stuff. So the G2 board, I think, is a really important turning point here at Printrbot, but we haven't yet brought those to everything. Eventually, you'll see everything we ship with the G2 board. But right now, we're doing some testing on Octoprint with the G2 board, and we want it to work really well with Octoprint. Printerboard works great with Octoprint. But I've got my prosthetic guy. He wants to put the G2 in it. Not working so great with Octoprint. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's moving the levers on bringing the speed up live during a print, which might be an issue. But anyway, who's it for? Is it an upgrade? Okay. So I would say that it's immediately quieter. It's not as loud, and your printer isn't going to jerk around like it probably does. Like if you got a little printer and you're moving fast, it's going to... I've had a Printrbot walk off this table because it didn't have feet or a power switch or metal. But anyway, so it is definitely more sophisticated, and if you want to track with the bleeding edge, you want it to go faster. The G2 can just run circles around a regular printer board when hooked via USB. It's choked a little bit by the teensy that we use in the Pro. So when you print from the cloud, it's a little slower. If you really want to push the speed and get all the tip sizes back that you want to use in slicer and whatnot, then just hook it to a USB. Yeah, it's for people that want a 32-bit processor in their printer because it offers some nice features. It uses JSON. This is going over a lot of people's heads, but it uses a different language to control, programming language, JSON, to, I guess that's a language, to handle everything that is not a motion control move. G-code used to be simple back in CNC days because just XYZ, ABC. Turn pumps on, turn pumps off. But when 3D printers came in and the market was crowded with hundreds and hundreds of vendors making custom versions of Marlin and fork, it got nuts. There's a joke in there somewhere. But forget about it. It just went all over the place, and people started adding M codes, and we're one of the guilty. We were like, hey, we want to do an auto level sensor. We added that in. There was some things about it we added in, an offset. There's all kinds of crazy, nutty things, and Tiny G said, listen, everything's way too complicated, and they conflict with each other, and these these people that write host software to run your printer, we can't all get on the same page. It's just too confusing. So I don't need any credit for this. Alden said, I'd like to use JSON, and then people can do whatever they want with JSON. You can control LEDs however you want, but it keeps the motion control just the motion control, and it doesn't slow down everything else because, and by the way, Marlin only really talks one direction. It says, tell me what to do. Okay. Tell me what to do. Okay. It just says okay. It literally says okay, not out loud. But it's not very smart that way. And the code of Marlin is pretty bad. The programmers I know call it spaghetti code. It's because there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. But the G2, if you look at go to the wiki, I don't know what the wiki is. It's probably github.com/ it's either going to be 10 square mile or 10. He has like 4 or 5 companies, but it's Tiny G. Or anyway, it's the G2 Core is what you want to look for. G2 Core on GitHub. Read about it. It's fantastic. It's very well written. Rob is a freaking genius. It is very, very, very ordered. When you look at the code and compare it to Marlin, you will see, if you're a programmer, why you should get a G2 and start messing around with it, because it's so much easier to read that code. It's like commented and everything. Anyway, can you make one of the extruder outputs on G2 work for a laser? Well, the Tiny G V8, I had the V9. I don't think anybody else sold it. He would sell it to you if you asked him. I use that to control the crawl bot. This new board that he's doing with 5 drivers is going to be readily available. I shouldn't say that. I didn't mean he's going to sell it right now. but he wants it to work in multiple machines. And ShopBot's even going to use it, or is now using one of their boards. But yeah, it's supposed to be the next gen that could be buy it, hook it up to a CNC, or buy it, hook it up to a 3D printer. And yes, I've requested that laser cutters work with it too. See, we want to take this frame, this rolling chassis, I should say. What I want somebody to do with this is this whole thing bolts off. And then you just got the arm with a little mounting bracket. I want to put a Dremel on here. I want to put a laser etcher on here with safety glasses. I want to put my paste extruder on here, and this folded part goes away. And this is a lot easier chassis to mount something like that too. And I want it to run on Tiny G. So that's what we're going to do. So that's over. That's pretty much it. So I've talked long enough. Thank you guys for listening to me wander on for almost an hour. I don't know what to expect next week, but it's not going to be me just standing here. Maybe we'll give you a new shop tour because I've been rearranging things in the shop a little bit. Heads up, we're getting smaller in our shop, mainly because we got too much space. And I have a lot of junk here, and I'm getting rid of my junk, and my landlord has made me an offer I can't refuse. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. They're really doing me a big deal. So I'm giving back some of my space to get money back and have a lower rent. So we're right-sizing. We're not downsizing, we're right-sizing. But anyway, so the shop's looking a little bit different these days. I'll give you a tour. I'll get out of here. I'll stop talking. Have a great week. Sign up for Adopt-A-Bot. Printrbot.com/Adopt-A-Bot. One word. Printrbot.com/dual. All right, guys. Have a great week.